Okay, so for this one, uh we're gonna write code. So pretty much we're gonna create a separate class that has like a student portfolio. Okay, so this one we're gonna call this main.java. This is the file for the code underneath here, and then we're gonna create a separate file called student.java. Okay, so these two are separate files. So pretty much what we're gonna do is uh obviously we have to do public class, and then whatever the file name is. So the file name is student, and we're gonna set up the following. We're gonna have a string value that will store the student's name. Then we're gonna have uh, a variable that will store the student's age. Then we're gonna check if the student is a science major or not. So boolean is wait, I should call it student. Student sci major, and then we're gonna check the student's tuition. I think it's spelled tuition wrong. Wait, it's supposed to be. There we go. Okay, so we have our variables done. Now what we're going to do is set up two constructors. One constructor will be for students who don't have a scholarship, and another constructor will be for students who have a scholarship. So let's set up our constructor. Public. The constructor's name has to be whatever the class name is, so student. And we're going to pass in four parameters that we're going to get from our main file. So we're going to do string name, uh, int age, boolean is psi major, and then finally double tuition. Okay, so in here we're gonna do we're gonna set up these we're gonna set up these variables to be equal to one of these. So for stu name, it should be equal to the name we pass in this constructor. For student age, it's going to be equal to the age that we passed in our constructor. For checking if they're a science major or not, we're gonna pass in is sci major, and for tuition, it's gonna be STUTUITION, tuition equals tuition. Okay, so from our main, when we set up the constructor, whatever we pass into the constructor, they'll be passed along here. Now this is the constructor for if the student doesn't have a scholarship. So now let's also make a constructor for if a student does have a scholarship. So it's going to be public student again. So the class name. We're going to include the following again: string name, int age, and boolean is psi major. Okay. However, we're not going to include tuition because we're going to have their tuition be automatically set to 0. So we stu name equals name. Then we do stu student age equals age. Then we have student psi major equals is psi major. And then for student tuition, we're going to by default set that to be 0. Okay, wait, hold on. Equals 0. There we go. So now when we set up all our variables, now we're gonna do a couple of getters and setters. So what should we make? Let's do. Let's say we wanted to change the student age because obviously they're going to be getting older as time goes on. So we're going to do public void. We're going to set make a setter. So public void change age, and here we're going to pass in uh, integer. So int change age, and pretty much we just do stu student age equals change age. All right, and let's also like they may want to change their major later on, so we'll do public void change psi major. So it's boolean uh change major. And let's say if they went from being a science major to maybe like an arts major, then obviously we have to change this to false. So we'll do is psi major. So sorry, not is psi major. It's stu psi major equals change major. Okay. Now obviously their tuition is obviously going to change as well. Like maybe they paid off their tuition, so that also has to change. So we'll do public void change tuition. So it has to be double. So double uh new to actually we'll also call that change tuition as well. So now it's gonna be student tuition equals change tuition. There we go. Now these are our setters. Now we have to make it our getters, so we can return values. So we'll do. Let's get our student name. So public string get name. So when we call this, we literally just return our name. So it's stu name, and obviously we're returning a string. Then public. Let's also get our age. So get public int get age. So we'll return in stu age, and then there's public. We check if they're a science major or not. So we'll do we have to return in a boolean. Is psi major? So we return stu psi major. And then finally, let's also check our tuition. So it'll be public double get tuition. So we return student tuition. All right, and then obviously let's end the class here. All right, so we pretty much made our class folder. Now here, let's start calling our class folder. So let's set up a portfolio for the student, for a regular student who doesn't have a scholarship. So it'll be, so to call this folder, we do student. Let's call this SR, student regular, is equal to new student. So obviously he doesn't have a tuition, so we're going to be calling this constructor. So let's pass in a name. So let's call this Mike. His age will be 21. He is not a science major, so we'll put false here. And he has a tuition of $2,350. Okay. So now let's start checking some info. I'm going to use s.out to be system.out because I don't want to write it multiple times. So system.out.println. Let's say I want to check my student's name. So I do sr, okay, and then we call in where's our we call in this method get name. So that returns their name. So get name, and this will return in Mike. Okay. What also you can do as well is do we can check our name directly. Well, wait, hold on. Yeah, sorry. We can check our name directly if we do stu underscore name. This will also give out Mike. Okay. But let's go back to get name instead. Now let's check my student's age. s.out.println sr dot what was that? Okay, where is it? Get age. Okay. Get age. And I'm gonna see that he's 21. Now let's say a year passed and he obviously has to turn 22. So what we do is let's change that, and so we have to change this one. We call this one change age, and then we pass in an integer. So change age, and we pass in 22. Now if we do system.out.println again, sr.getAge, it's going to show 22. Okay. Now let's say he paid off his tuition a bit. Let's say he paid off $1,000. So what we would do is do sr.change tuition. I think it was called. Yeah, change tuition. Let's get his current tuition. So we can, inside our parameter, we can actually do sr.getTuition. Get tuition is obviously $2,350, and then let's subtract 1,000 from it. Okay, this will pretty much return $1,350. Okay, so obviously we pass in where is change tuition? Okay, yeah, we pass in when we do sr.getTuition, we get our tuition value from here. We put that in change tuition, and then we subtract it by 100. Okay. Now let's set up another constructor. Sorry, let's set up another portfolio for our student who has a scholarship. So we'll call it SS, student with scholarship. So we have to do student SS equals new student. This person's name will be Sarah. They are 23. They are a science major, and and we're calling in this constructor, the constructor for the ones who have tuition. So we just stopped here. So if we do the sum, if we do system.out.println ss.getTuition, since for Sarah, her tuition is 0, this is gonna return in 0 as well. Okay. Now let's say we don't want anyone to access our student age directly. So because obviously this is confidential. So what we can do is rewrite this to be private int student age. Okay. Now, if we try and view any of our students' age directly, so if we do system.out.println ss.student_age, you're gonna get an error because they can't view this because it's private. The only ones who can view it is anyone who's inside this class, but outside classes cannot view it. The only way you can technically view it is if you call in get age, because this is a public method. All right. So if you do get age instead, obviously you're gonna see Sarah is 23. All right. And this also works for the other student, Mike. So yeah.